Next up, we're going to see something new we haven't actually seen before in the course, and it's called props.children. So I have a lot of content in these components that it would be nice, and this is sort of contrived, but it would be nice to have like a border around them and a bit of a darker background. For example, on the chips, I've got all these chips here and my text gets lost, or it can. So it would be nice to have maybe a like transparent white background and a border around this stuff. I have on the sardines page the same thing. So what I'm going to do is make a component that I can use for all of that. Instead of styling each one manually and creating a bunch of class names and CSS, I'm going to make a component and wrap these in a component. So we haven't seen that, but it will look something like this. So where I have my text, let's say my message or my component is called message, which again doesn't exist. I would wrap this code, let's say both of these things together, in a message component, and the message component would then do some sort of styling. And it's not limited to styling, but our example will be. And it would add a border and a background to this content. So we haven't seen how to do that yet. So I'm going to make a new component called message.js. And while I'm here, I'll make my message.css. Okay, so in my message.css, I just have some styles, padding, margin, a background color that is slightly transparent. Text is white, everything is uppercase, a rounded border, everything is center aligned. And then I'll start with a really basic component, export default message, great. And then I'll give this a class name of message. And then we can begin by just putting some content in here. This is a message. And I guess I shouldn't make that uppercase just to show you the styles are working. I'm going to now import this. Let's do it in our vending machine. Import message from /message. Okay, so here we'll add a message just like this. So this is not how we'll end up using it, but we can see we have a message. It's not quite working yet. Let's see what our class name was in our CSS file. Oh, I'm an idiot. We're not importing the file. Import./message.css. Okay, so this is what our message looks like. So now imagine that we want to use this across all these other components. We want to nest this content in a message. To do it, it's actually not that difficult. We're going to go into any of the files. Let's begin with, let's do the vending machine. Let's say that I want two panels. I want the first one to be around this H1 and the second one to be around my links. I'm going to wrap them in a message component. So message, opening and closing. And I'm going to put this content in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing and put my links in the second one. Now, right now, if we take a look, all we're seeing is this is a message and this is a message, because in our message component, that's all we're displaying. We have to add a little bit of magic to tell React to display the content that was nested or passed down to it inside the actual message component. So if I open up the React DevTools and we go through all these components to find the one we're looking for, vending machine, inside of it we have two messages. And the first message has a prop called children. And if we look at it, it really doesn't tell us much right now, but this is the thing we need to care about. Children contains all of this information, all of this JSX, all of the corresponding JavaScript objects that are generated, and we can use props.children. All we need to do is return to our message.js, and instead of displaying this is a message, we're going to add this.props.children. And now this will take whatever content was a child of the message, whatever was nestled between the opening and closing tag of the message, and display it here inside of our message div that has all that styling applied. And there we go. We now have our links over here, and we have, hello, I'm a vending machine, what would you like to eat? Displaying in a message. So let's go and update the rest of our code. Let's begin with our sardine. So we're going to import message from /message, and then wrap, let's do this content here, the H1 and our link. Perfect. Let's go to the sardines page, and we can see it's now inside of this message component. Everything still works, but it's just a little bit of styling. Now we're not limited to only doing styling. We can do other things inside the message component, just like a regular component, but in our case, I want to keep it simple. So let's go and do the same thing for chips. Import message from message, and then down here, we'll do all of our content inside of a message, or almost all of it, excluding the bags at the bottom. We go to chips. Looks good enough. It's not great. Maybe to make that length larger, I'll do it this way. Put an H1 around it. Okay, that looks a little better. Still not perfect, not very pretty, but it works. And then we have our soda, and we'll put all of this in a message. So I'll begin, once again, import message from /message, and then I'm going to move my link. I'm just going to put it in here, like that, and instead of a div, we don't need that anymore. I'm going to use a message component. Surprise. Okay. There we go. So now we have this component we can wrap around other content, and we can still render that content from inside the new component. And the magic that made that happen is props.children. So it's referring to whatever content is nested inside of that component. That's all there is to it. And we're now done. So kind of a silly project, not particularly pretty, but it's really just focused on the basics of the router, working on creating a navbar. You'll do that all the time. Well, a lot of the time. Not every site needs a navbar, but it's pretty common that you'll use one. And also adding links in, creating the routes. A lot of this stuff is really standard, and we'll use it in almost all the projects we make from here on out. Okay,